Hi, this is Karen Burke. I'm here today with Stephanie Cooke, and we're here to talk again about the Children and Adolescent Certificate course
Yes.
that Steffi runs with Amanda Phillips here at the Manchester Institute for Psychotherapy.
Yes, you're right. We've already talked about the first three of the modules. So what I'm going to talk about with Karen now is the next three modules, because we run 6 of them over during a sort of 3-month period. And so the module 4 is we're looking at self-harm and how we might address them in the workplace. And that area is quite an important area because obviously, as you all are aware, it's very topical and current with young people these days. So many children self-harm in lots of different ways, and it causes their parents great distress, but it also causes the people who come to work with them great stress as well, because it's quite a scary subject, and it's quite scary to see the damage that they do to themselves.
So, with this particular module, as well as teaching the theory, do you do experiential exercises as well with the group?
Yeah, we ask people if they've got any live cases to bring them and talk about them.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, myself and Amanda have worked with adolescents who self-harm and are indeed, I myself am still working with adolescents and young people, and sometimes adults who self-harm.
Yes.
So what we concentrate on specifically is finding out what people want and what their experience is, but also we talk about some of the things that they need to look out for and some of the things that they can do to help support these people. So one of the things that I think is important for people to understand is that children who self-harm do so because they very often can't find another way of expressing how they feel.
Yeah.
So it's their way of showing how they feel.
Yeah.
And very often the marks that they leave is a record of that experience. Because if they're in an environment where they're not being heard or listened to or feel like they can't talk about how they feel, it's a good way of them being able to do that. And obviously if they mark themselves, they have a record of, I did that when I was feeling this.
And certainly that's my experience as a practitioner too, that even some very young children, which is quite sad when they are so little, it's not just adolescents, as you said. I mean, we see adult clients who will self-harm. However, I've had the experience of also working with quite young children, that would still be within that category of being children, who do self-harm, and thank goodness for the majority it is what would be termed medically as quite superficial, so it would be scratches, etc. However, that's not to be ignored, and I quite agree with you, and it's often quite shocking and saddening for parents or carers the fact that the child has felt they couldn't come to talk or to express themselves about a particular issue. And of course, for some of the children that we work with, children that are looked after or that have been adopted, of course it's that previous early experience that is often being reactivated. I'll talk in adoption regarding reactivated grief. And so, yes, I think that self-harm for children and adolescents, as you say, it is topical, and it goes on a great deal, and often, of course, it will go unnoticed. And for the parents, as I say, it can sometimes be really quite shocking as an indicator how distressed their child is. Yeah.
And the essence really of the work is to help them talk about what it really is that's going on.
Yeah.
And that's often the hardest, because sometimes it can be quite entrenched behaviour. So it can be quite long-term work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, moving on to the penultimate module, that's on trauma.
It is, yes.
Yeah, where both of us lighted up with a smile when we heard the word trauma. And we do that from a theoretical point of view rather than our pleasure at someone else being traumatised. Because I know we both enjoy working, and we enjoy the theories around trauma.
I mean, my very first experience of working with children and adolescents was in a CAMS unit, and I worked with quite traumatised teenagers who'd experienced some quite horrific things. So, you know, my early training in the 80s, I'm giving my age away now, was in the area of trauma.
Yes.
So I have, you know, quite a lengthy span of experience in working in that area. And so very recently I've become very interested, and we do teach this on our trauma workshop, about the impact on the brain of trauma, because I think that's integral to the way we work, and certainly the neurobiology of child's development is really important to understand in terms of trauma, because unless you have an understanding of that, you won't make any inroads in terms of making an attachment and making a change and being able to do the work. So that's one of the areas we focus on.
And it's about us understanding, as with you, I share a passion for that. So we realise that actually, until the child is calmed, then in fact, you know, they will be unable to do, because of what's happening actually neurobiologically to them, the fact that they will be being flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. So yes, I think it's absolutely, you know, at last neurobiology has proven that psychotherapy works.
Yes.
You know, we now have the technology to prove, you know, brain scans prior to psychotherapy and after psychotherapy, and we can see that there have actually been new neural pathways laid down with the work that we've done. So, you know, eventually it's been proven that it's no longer just magic or a fluke.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's important for people to know this information, though, because when a child is traumatised, their brain stops working in the way it would normally work, and they switch off, and nothing you do is going to work in terms of any therapy. So I'm glad that that's been brought into our attention and is now in the realm of psychotherapy.
Yeah. And so finally we have the last module, which I understand is about bullying and
also working with children who've actually been overindulged. They've not had the boundaries.
So those precious and precocious children, no boundaries.
Yeah. So and we thought this is important to talk about, because those of us who work as social workers may not come across that many children that have you know, who behave in that way, but some of us in private practice do.
Yes, we do.
And of course in schools, the counsellors working in schools will see that kind of behaviour happening too. So we thought this would be a subject that was well worth addressing and looking at, and so the sixth module is about that. But also we focus on bullying, which is again a very current and topical subject to talk about, because, you know, as we all recently know, there's been a website, I think it's called Ask FM, I can't remember.
It is, it's Ask FM,
where children actually have actively taken their lives through bullying, and it's very widely publicised on this website. So it's a very, very huge subject, and we also talk about it in terms of people being bullied on the web, online,
Mm. As well as
cyberbullying.
yes, yeah. So
As well
so it's not just the playground that they
No.
may be bullied in, or
Yeah.
going home from school,
Yeah.
or indeed scapegoated,
Yeah.
because there's bullying and there's scapegoating, isn't there?
Yeah.
No, and as you say, it is very topical, and unfortunately, the young people of today, from a very young age, because it's both children as well. It's not
Yeah.
just adolescents that access
Yeah.
the net. Then it is going to become more commonplace, and so it will
Yeah.
mean that more and more practitioners will need to deal with this particular subject.
Yeah. And as we said right at the beginning, really what we're offering people is a toolbox. So whilst we are bringing into their awareness, people who attend it, some of the things they can do, and we are talking about some live case discussions, some of our experiences. We are hoping at some point to develop this course further.
So you've told me that already, this is a living, organic process.
Yes.
So what do you see as happening in the future? Will you be adding new things into the certificate? Are there any other plans afoot?
Well, what we would quite like to do is actually run a diploma course, which is a course that will include some of what we've already talked about, but in a more in-depth theoretical way, so that people can write about what they're learning and bring their life practice to the course, and learn more on an in-depth level, as I said, about the theory.
Yeah. So thank you for watching this video. If you are interested in attending Stephanie and Amanda's child and adolescent certificate course, you can contact the Manchester Institute for Psychotherapy, and someone will be able to tell you about the next course that's running.
Yeah, we are online. If you just put Manchester Institute into Google, it will come up, and then you can actually go on to our site and have a look at all our CBT courses, and of course we have diploma courses running as well. And hopefully you'll come and join us, and I look forward to meeting you. Bye bye.
Thank you.